In the mountains, the old mountains, the ones where the roads turned to dirt and the nearest anything was an hour away, there were women they called granny women. Not doctors, not nurses, just women who knew things. Things about roots and bark and the jar of honey on the top shelf, and what a cut onion could do if you put it in the right place at the right time. By the end of this video, you will know 15 of their kitchen remedies, all made from things that are sitting in your kitchen right now. And the one at number 1 at small or the strongest, the most forgotten, uses 4 ingredients that most people have in their pantry but would never think to combine. Number 7 is the one that burned, literally. And number 5 is made from a tree that most people walk past without knowing it saved lives for 200 years. 15 remedies, all from the kitchen, all almost gone. Let us bring them back before nobody remembers. Number 15, salt water gargle. Start simple. Because the simplest one is the one people forget first. A teaspoon of salt, a cup of warm water, stir, gargle, spit. That is the whole thing. Grandmothers in the mountains did not reach for a bottle when a throat got raw. They reached for the salt jar, the same salt jar they used for cooking, for canning, for curing meat, for everything. Does it sound too easy? Good. That is the problem with the modern world. If something is too simple, people assume it does not work. So they buy a box, or a bottle, or a spray, and the salt jar sits there doing nothing, waiting. Number 14, peppermint tea, not a tea bag. Not the kind in the box with the little string and the motivational quote on the tag. Peppermint from the garden, picked fresh, or dried in bundles hanging from the kitchen ceiling, which, if you have ever been in an old mountain kitchen, you have seen. They hang everything. Herbs, peppers, onion braids. The ceiling is the pantry. A handful of peppermint leaves, hot water poured over them. 5 minutes. The kitchen fills with a smell that is, I do not know how else to say this to clean. Like the air itself just took a bath. This was the after-dinner tea. The my stomach is not right tea. The I ate too fast and now I am paying for it tea. The old women did not call it a remedy. They called it tea. And they drank it the way they drank everything. Sitting down, quiet, with the cup in both hands. Number 13, chamomile tea. For the nights, the long ones. When the body is tired but the mind will not stop talking and the bed feels wrong and the dark feels heavy and sleep is right there but it will not come. Dried chamomile flowers, hot water, nothing else. No sugar, no honey. Just the flowers and the water, and a cup that smells like a field in August. The granny women gave this to everyone. Babies who would not settle. Old men who had not slept properly since their wives passed. Women who lay awake counting worries the way other people count sheep. The chamomile did not knock anyone out. It was not dramatic. It just quieted things, made the edges softer, made the mind slow down enough to let the body do what it was trying to do. The flowers grew wild, along fences, at the edge of fields, anywhere the soil was thin and the sun hit hard. Free. Always free. Number 12, honey and lemon in warm water. Every grandmother, every kitchen, every winter. This was the first thing that happened when someone woke up with a raw throat and a voice that sounded like gravel. A tablespoon of honey, half a lemon squeezed, warm water, and not hot, warm. Stirred once, drunk slowly. The honey coated. The lemon cut through whatever was sitting in the throat. The warm water carried both of them down gently. I could complicate this. I could explain why it works. But the grandmothers never explained it, and they were right not to. Some things do not need explanation. They need a cup and a spoon, and 5 minutes of sitting still. Number 11, ginger root tea. The root sat in a bowl on the counter, brown, knobby, ugly, looking like something you would find in the dirt and throw back. But in mountain kitchens, and in kitchens across every community that understood what a root could do, ginger was not decoration. Ginger was the answer to a question the body asks on cold mornings when nothing inside feels right, and the stomach sits heavy and the chill will not leave no matter how close you stand to the stove. A thumb-sized piece, sliced thin or grated, boiled in water for 10 minutes. Strained. Drunk hot. The heat hits the chest first, then the stomach, then... And this is the part people do not expect. The fingers. The toes. Like the warmth is traveling outward from the center, reaching every cold corner of the body and saying, I am here now. The granny women kept the ginger root the way they kept salt. Always in the kitchen, always available, always the first thing they reached for when someone walked through the door looking pale. If you are still with me, and the fact that you are, tells me you are the kind of person who still believes a kitchen can do more than heat up a box, Subscribe. Hit that button, because the next 10 remedies are the ones that most people have never heard of. And number 7 is the one that left marks. Number 10, blackberry leaf tea. Not the berries, the leaves. That surprises people. Everyone knows the berries, the bramble along the fence line, the purple stains on your fingers in July, the cobbler your grandmother made on Sundays. But the leaves? Nobody remembers the leaves. The old women picked them in early summer before the berries formed, dried them on a screen in the shade. Never in direct sun, that was the rule. Stored in a jar, and when someone in the family had a stomach that would not settle, especially in the heat, especially in summer, a tea made from those dried leaves was the answer. Not dramatic, not instant, just a slow, quiet settling. Like the stomach had been arguing with itself, and the tea walked in and said, "Enough." Blackberry bramble grows everywhere. It is considered a weed by most people. They cut it back. They spray it. They curse it for scratching their arms. And the leaves, the part the granny women valued most, get thrown away with the rest. Number 9, vinegar and honey morning tonic. A tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, a tablespoon of honey, a cup of warm water, every morning, before anything else. This was not negotiable in certain mountain households. It was not a suggestion. It was the first thing that happened after the feet hit the floor and the stove was lit and the kettle was warm. Before breakfast, before chores, the tonic came first. Why? Because Mama did it. That was the answer. And her mama before her. Nobody went deeper than that. Nobody needed to. The ritual was the reason. The repetition was the proof. 50 years of mornings. 60 years. The women who drank this tonic every day without exception were, and I know what this sounds like, but I'm going to say it anyway, the last ones standing. Take that however you want. Number 8, onion and honey cough syrup. This one takes overnight. And it looks terrible. And it works. Or at least the granny women said it worked. And nobody in the family ever argued because arguing with a granny woman was not something you did twice. A yellow onion, sliced thin, layered in a jar with honey. A layer of onion, a pour of honey, another layer, another pour, until the jar is full. Lid on, counter, overnight. By morning, the onion has released its juice into the honey. The liquid at the bottom of the jar is thin, sharp, golden, and deeply unpleasant looking. A spoonful of that. Every few hours. The taste is, honestly, not great. Sweet and sharp and onion-flavored in a way that your mouth rejects on principle. But the chest loosens. The cough quiets. The rawness fades. Whether that is the onion or the honey or the combination or the belief or the simple act of doing something instead of nothing, I cannot tell you. What I can tell you is that every mountain kitchen had a jar of this going by November. Every single one. Number 7, mustard plaster. Here is where it gets serious. Mustard powder. Dry, ground mustard, the kind that sits in every spice cabinet and nobody touches. Mixed with flour in equal parts. Enough water to make a paste. Spread on a cloth. Never directly on the skin. That was the rule. And the rule was there for a reason. The cloth laid on the chest. 15 minutes. No more. The heat starts almost immediately. A deep, spreading warmth that feels, at first, comforting. Then it intensifies. Then it burns. Not like fire. Like someone turned up the temperature inside your chest from the outside. The skin underneath goes red. Flushed. Hot to the touch. And when you remove it, exactly at 15 minutes, not a minute longer, the chest feels open. Loose. Like something that was locked had been pried apart. The granny women were specific about this one. Specific in a way they were not about most things. Flour to mustard ratio. Cloth between paste and skin, 15 minutes maximum. Check the skin every 5 minutes. If it goes past red into raw, pull it off. These were not gentle women. They pulled teeth with pliers and set bones without flinching. But they respected the mustard plaster. That should tell you something. Children hated it. Adults tolerated it. And everyone, every single person who sat through those 15 minutes, admitted afterward that something had changed. Something had shifted. Something had loosened. Done. Number 6, garlic steeped in honey. Take a small jar. Fill it with peeled garlic cloves. Pour honey over them until covered. Close the lid. Wait. That is it. That is the preparation. But the waiting is where everything happens. Over the next 2 to 3 weeks, the garlic softens. The honey thins. The two become something else, not quite garlic, not quite honey. Something in between that tastes sharp and sweet at the same time and makes the back of your throat tingle when you swallow it. 1 clove and a spoonful of the infused honey at the first sign of winter trouble. That was the rule. Not after the trouble arrived. At the first sign. The granny women were obsessive about timing. They did not wait. They did not see how things developed. The moment someone sniffled, the jar came out. Every kitchen had one of these going by October. Sitting on the counter in a mason jar, the garlic slowly turning golden, the honey slowly turning thin. Ready? Waiting. Like a quiet sentry that asked for nothing except 3 weeks of patience. Let me stop here and tell you something that nobody says because it is not convenient to say. These remedies cost nothing. A salt gargle, a cup of ginger tea, a jar of honey with garlic in it, an onion sliced into a jar. We are not talking about expensive ingredients. We are not talking about special equipment. We are talking about things that are sitting, right now, in almost every kitchen, doing nothing because nobody remembers what they are for. The modern world replaced all of this with a trip to the store, a plastic bottle, a box with a label and a directions chart and a price tag that goes up every year. And the salt jar sits there. The honey sits there. The ginger root dries out and gets thrown away because nobody reached for it. The granny women would find this, and I want to choose the right word here, insane. They would find it insane that a person would drive 30 minutes to buy a bottle of something when the answer was already on the second shelf next to the flower. Share this video, hit subscribe, and tell me in the comments, what did your grandmother reach for first when someone got sick? I want to know, because those answers are disappearing faster than the remedies themselves. The last 5 are the strongest on this list. Number 5 is made from a tree. Number 2 is the most physical, the one you can feel immediately. And number 1 is the recipe that burned going down and made the whole kitchen smell like something alive. Number 5. Sassafras root tea. In early spring, before the leaves came in, before the garden started, in that cold, muddy window between winter and the first warm day, families went digging, not for vegetables, for roots. Specifically, the roots of the sassafras tree. Sassafras grows wild across the mountain ridges. Small trees with mitten-shaped leaves that smell like root beer when you crush them. Because root beer was originally made from sassafras, a fact that most people do not know. The roots were dug, washed, and boiled. The water turned a reddish-brown color and filled the kitchen with a smell that every mountain child associates with the end of winter. They called it the spring tonic, the preparation that thinned the blood after months of heavy winter eating. Although what they meant by thinned was not what a doctor would mean. They meant it woke the body up, shook off the sluggishness, put color back in the face that had gone pale by February. A cup a day for the first 2 weeks of spring. That was the ritual. Then you stopped. Not because of any fear, because the spring was done and the tonic had done its work, and the sassafras roots went back to being roots until next year. This was the most seasonal remedy on the list. It existed in a narrow window. It served a single purpose. And when that purpose was served, it stepped aside. There is something disciplined about that. Something the modern world, which wants every remedy to be daily and permanent and subscription-based, does not understand. Number 4. Spicebush tea. Most people have walked past this plant 1,000 times without knowing what it is. Spicebush, lindera, the old-timers called it by other names, grows in the understory of the mountain forests. Unremarkable to look at. Small, shrubby, with leaves that do not stand out and berries that nobody notices. But crush a leaf between your fingers and something happens. The smell is, how do I describe this? Allspice mixed with something sharper, something bright, something that makes you stop and hold the leaf up to your nose and wonder how you have been walking past this plant your entire life without noticing. The granny women used spicebush the way they used everything, practically. The twigs, broken into pieces and boiled, made a tea that was given to anyone with a chill that would not break. The berries, dried and ground, were used as a spice, an allspice substitute when the store-bought kind was too expensive or too far away. Spicebush tea was the remedy for the person who could not get warm. Not cold from weather, cold from the inside. The kind of cold that extra blankets do not fix. The kind that sits in the center of the body like a stone and will not move. A cup of spicebush tea, as hot as you could stand it, was the granny woman's answer to that cold. Not the only answer, but the first one. This plant is native. It has been here longer than any of us. It grows without help, without planting, without attention. And almost nobody alive today knows what it does. That is the kind of loss that does not make headlines but should. Number 3, elderberry syrup. The elder trees grew at the edges of things. Fence rows, creek banks. The boundary between the yard and the woods where cultivated ended and wild began. They were not planted, they just showed up. And the granny women let them stay because what the elder gave in late summer was worth more than any cultivated garden could produce. The berries, small, dark, almost black, like were never eaten raw. Raw elderberries will turn your stomach inside out, and the granny women knew this the way they knew everything. Because someone at some point learned it the hard way and made sure nobody learned it again. Cooked down with honey into a thick, dark syrup that was stored in jars in the cellar and rationed 1 spoonful a day through the entire winter. This was not a response to trouble. This was prevention. The granny women did not wait for the body to struggle. They started the syrup in September and kept it going until April. Every morning, 1 spoon, like clockwork. The children got it whether they wanted it or not. The adults took it without being asked because they had seen enough winters to know what happened to the people who did not prepare. Of all the remedies on this list, this is the one that has come closest to returning to the mainstream. You can find elderberry products on store shelves now, in bottles and capsules and gummies shaped like bears. The granny women would not recognize any of it. Their version was simpler, cheaper, and it came from a tree that grew without permission at the edge of the yard. If you have made it this far, you are not casual about this. Subscribe if you have not, leave a like, and stay, because the last two are the most physical, most visceral remedies on this entire list. If your grandmother made any of these, write it down, tonight, not next week, tonight, before the way she held the jar and tilted the spoon fades from your memory entirely, because that is what is disappearing, not the recipe, the way it was done, the rhythm, the confidence, the look on her face that said, I have done this 1,000 times and it has never failed me. Number 2, onion poultice, a whole onion, roasted in the oven or directly on the wood stove until it was soft all the way through and almost falling apart. Cut in half, wrapped in a cloth while still hot, as hot as the skin could stand without burning, pressed against the chest, held there. That is the onion poultice, and it is the most physical remedy on this list. You feel it immediately. The heat from the roasted onion radiates through the cloth and into the chest wall like a warm hand pressing from the outside in. The smell, sweet, sharp, deep, fills the room and stays for hours. The granny women use this for the chest that felt heavy, tight, locked. When the cough was deep and the breathing was shallow and the person looked like they were carrying a weight inside their ribcage that they could not put down. It did not look scientific. It looked like someone put a hot onion on your chest and told you to hold still, which is exactly what it was. And yet, and I say this carefully, the people who had it done to them reported the same thing, over and over for 200 years. The tightness loosened, the breathing deepened, something moved that had not been moving. Whether the onion did that, or the heat did that, or the act of someone caring enough to roast an onion and hold it against your chest with their own hands did that, I honestly do not know, and I am not sure it matters. Number 1, fire cider. This is the strongest thing on this list. The last thing the granny women reached for. The preparation that made the whole kitchen smell like a living thing. Sharp, aggressive, bright, alive in a way that nothing else in the kitchen was. Apple cider vinegar, raw horseradish root, grated, garlic cloves, crushed, onion, diced, cayenne pepper, all of it packed into a mason jar. Vinegar poured over until everything was submerged. Lid on tight. Counter, 4 weeks. 4 weeks of sitting. 4 weeks of the garlic and horseradish and onion releasing everything they had into the vinegar. The jar sweated. The lid sometimes bulged. The smell when you opened it hit the back of your throat like a slap. Strained through a cloth. The liquid, amber, sharp, flecked with red from the cayenne, was fire cider. A tablespoon at the first sign of winter trouble. Straight, no water, no honey. Straight, it burned going down. Your eyes watered. Your nose ran. Your chest opened like someone had kicked a door in. The warmth spread from the throat to the stomach to the fingertips in under a minute. It was not gentle. It was not pleasant. It was the nuclear option of the mountain kitchen, and the granny women did not use it lightly. But when they used it, when the jar came out and the cloth came off and the spoon went in, everyone in the family knew. Things had gotten serious enough for the fire cider. And the fire cider had never, in anyone's memory, in any family, in any generation, failed to do what it was supposed to do. This recipe is almost gone, not because it does not work, because it takes 4 weeks to make and nobody waits for anything anymore. We want the answer now, in a bottle, with a barcode, and the jar on the counter sweating quietly doing its work in the dark. That does not fit the modern timeline. So it disappeared, along with the patients, along with the women who knew that the strongest preparations are the ones that make you wait. 15 remedies, all from the kitchen. Salt, honey, onions, garlic, ginger, peppermint, chamomile, mustard, blackberry leaves, vinegar, sassafras root, spice bush, elderberry, and cayenne. Not one of them required a note from anyone. Not one of them required a trip anywhere further than the garden or the pantry. Not one of them required permission. That was the point. The granny women of the mountains did not have access to anything except what grew around them and what sat on their shelves. And from that, from salt and roots and jars and patience, they kept their families going through winters that would have broken most of us, through decades without what the modern world considers basic, through entire lifetimes of making do with what was there. They did not make do despite having nothing. They made do because they understood that they had everything. It was just quieter than what came after, simpler, cheaper, and it sat on the second shelf next to the flour, waiting to be remembered. Make one of these tonight. The salt gargle, the honey and lemon, the ginger tea, whatever is already there, because the kitchen was never just a place to cook. For the granny women, it was the first and last line of defense. And it still is, if you let it be. Subscribe, share this. And remember, these remedies did not fail. We just stopped reaching for them. The jar is still there. The salt is still there. The honey is still there. The only thing missing is the hand that reaches.